Hey, how y'all doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well myself. Path of Exile 2. They just had their announcement trailer. They talked for about an hour. You more than welcome. I would highly suggest if you want to get the full details, go check out that video. But I like to go over what they said in the announcement, try to make it as quick and digestible as possible, and then later on I'll make a video for the patch notes and we'll see how that goes. Last Epoch's new league starts tomorrow. I'll be playing that for a little while. Come hang out. And next Friday we'll be hitting up Path of Exile 2. So what do we get? All right, first off, in point three we are getting new gems. They showcased about six or so. There's a bunch of other ones that they mentioned. Upgraded some of the skills, some fundamental changes as well. Volcanic fissure was noted. It's shown quite a bit in the trailer. They made it have a bit of snaking to it, kind of like volcanic fissure snaking. There's a lot of fire emphasis. The entire screen was orange, so that's always nice. Lots of changes involved with elemental damage and ailments. What that means is there's a lot more synergy between the different elements. You can get things with extra lightning, or it can even change the functionality of some of the skills. A lot of that kind of coincides with the changes that they've done to the elementalist. There was a handful of class changes. They did focus a lot on the elementalist being changed quite a bit. Expect to see a lot of builds for elementalist next patch. Um, Passive tree, they added 100 new notables. They showed both trees side by side. There's definitely a big difference. There's a whole lot of extra clusters, and again, 100 new notables. That's going to be pretty significant. Expect a lot of work with min maxing and all sorts of builds and all sorts of tweaking coming very soon. Um, some class changes. Like I mentioned, Elemental utilizes all the elements a lot more frequently. It's a lot more synergistic. You'll see a lot of builds with Elementalist. Something I forgot to mention here is we also got Sprint. Sprint is now a basically their way of saying here you can finally have some speed to your character. How that works is whenever you dodge roll, you can hold the same button and you'll go into a sprint. You'll be able to sprint as long as you hold that button down. However, if you get hit, you'll get knocked down and be vulnerable for a brief period of time. So you got to be careful about that. They added some new supports. Some of them come from mechanics in the game. The new league mechanic actually has a couple of new supports. There's a whole bunch of them that they showed off. Uh, they removed the limit of one per build, so you can actually have the same skill gem for multiple skills. They also added tiers to them, so one might be faster casting, which would be 15% at tier 1, 20% at tier 2, and then some of them have a special version at tier 3 or higher. Like that one will allow you to get 10% increased cast speed for every other skill that you use previous to that skill. So you can do a couple other skills and get a much higher amount of cast speed on that main skill that you're using. Um, there's also a new act. Act 4 was added. They also added three uh, subs supplemental. They called it something else. I'm just gonna call them supplemental. They're three smaller chunks of league of Act 1, 2, and 3. They have new storylines and new mechanics and new stuff to do. Those will transition you from Act 4 into Endgame, getting to about level 65. Uh, they also had 25 new maps. That's going to be added to the end game. That just comes from Act 4. Same with a bunch of new bosses as well. I think they said 24 new bosses. That's the same deal. It's going to be added. It's simply because of the new content. We're getting all these new bosses and maps for the end. Um, Current league now requires fragments instead of turning those fragments into a key basically. So like think about breach, you need 300 splinters. Well, no longer. You can get those splinters and then you can put it into the device to be able to go and do the boss fight, and depending on which one you've unlocked, which tier of that boss you've unlocked, depends on how many it takes to fight the boss. So they showed an example. It was like 50 to fight the tier 1 boss and 100 to fight the tier 2 boss, and so on and so forth, up to tier 4. And they also made it so that Arbiter no longer has multiple tiers. He only has the two, and it's normal and Uber versions. Uh, Currency, there's new tiered versions of currency. For example, transmute can be just a regular one. There's a medium one. I forgot what they called it, but there's a middle one, and then there's a perfect one. And each one of these determines the minimum tier level of the modifier added. So the higher the version of the orb that you're using, the higher the lowest tier will be. So the way it kind of looked, it looked like maybe the the top one, the perfect one, is going to be like the top 3 or 4 levels. That's basically just going to be a little bit better to try to min max your gear, and it's a little less RNG. They also did that with essences as well and added a whole bunch of new essences and tiers of essences. Uh, they added trade. This is 12, 13 years or something like that. They finally added trade. So what it is it's exactly the same as trade is currently. However, when you put an item in your trade tab, you put the price on it. Somebody finds it on the auction house. They click the button, and instead of it being a whisper button that just whispers you in game, it now just takes them to your hideout, and then they can open up your stash, find the item. It'll be highlighted, and then they can purchase it. They can also purchase anything else they may see in that same stash tab. So you could basically, the thing that I think the best way this is going to function is you make a tab for say you do a build and you're done with the build, you want to move on to a new build, and you put all those old items into a stash tab, you put them up for sale. Somebody goes, ooh, I really like that wand, I'm gonna go buy this wand. They go to your hideout, they see the wand, but in that same tab they're like, oh, a lot of this stuff is the same stuff that I use for this build, and I need this and I need this. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a good way of doing it, and highly suggest that's something you should think about whenever you're trying to sell your old build to do a new one. Uh, and then the final thing to mention, well, first off, there's new end game. Not a lot. They stated that point 4 will be the big end game stuff, which will probably be another class as well. Uh, they didn't do too much this league. They did add some extra content. There's some ways of getting new maps or new zones to find. There's a few little morsels of end game that they added, but overall the majority of it wasn't changed. They did change the Atlas passive tree so that you start out with a couple points to put in any of the league mechanics. That way, you don't start brand new for the league. You can actually put a couple points into like Breach or something like that if you want. And then the final thing is the new league. The new league is Abyss. Abyss is a league that was added long time ago in Path of Exile 1. You basically ran over this little green portal, and then it would make a snaking trail of like basically a crack in the ground, and you'd follow it. A bunch of mobs would come out of it. It would stop at different points, and whenever it stopped, you fought a bunch of mobs that were coming out of a hole, and then it would trail off or it would end. And whenever it ended, it would either give you a chest, an abyssal chest, which had some items in it, or it would open up a portal to go fight a boss. In this new version of it, the mobs that come out of the hole are actually impacted by the mobs you killed previously. So basically, if you kill something like a rogue exile next to one of these, a corrupted like uber version of that rogue exile will come back out. It'll be a little bit stronger, have different drops, and in some cases, like in the case of rogue exiles, they have different loot that they can drop, specialized loot. There's also bosses that you can encounter and all sorts of things. I think it looks really interesting, and I'm liking the idea of just taking an old mechanic and just making it fresh, and that's a good way of doing it. They also added new orbs that can drop. These crafting orbs are basically veiled orbs. What you do is you go to a special zone, you take an item, and you put this orb on it. It'll give it a bunch of like weird characters on it, kind of like how veiled items work in Path of Exile 1. You throw it into the Abyss, and this little creature comes back, brings it back to you, and then you can click it, and it'll unlock 3 modifiers that you can choose one of. It's an awesome idea. It's another way of adding some more to the crafting system, and it's definitely needed in this game because that's one of the weaker points of Path of Exile 2. Other than that, that's about it. That's the TLDR. I made it as fast as I can, and I hope to see you all on my stream or here on YouTube, whatever the case may be. Throw out your opinions. What do you guys think? What do you think of the new patch? Uh, you think it's gonna be? You think they're cooking? You think they're they're not? I don't know. I think they are. I think it looks good. I'm not gonna sit here and be overly hyped about it, but I am looking forward to giving it a shot, and I hope that it's moving in the right direction. Otherwise, y'all take care. I'll see you over on Twitch, and uh, yeah, that's it. Take care.